Good morning, everyone. I hope that this video finds you all doing really well. This month is flying by, and we're basically halfway through the course at the end of this week. So I wanted to just give a little bit of an overview for the needs assessment vendor comparison assignment that is due this Sunday. I believe it's the 14th. And so I have it pulled up here, the actual assignment instructions for 50 points. Um, as usual, I'm not going to read the introduction, but please do that so that you understand the purpose of this assignment and how it fits into the unit here that we're working through. Okay. So in this assignment, you're a HIM director for a healthcare organization, and you have been assigned a specialty or sector of healthcare. So imagine that you're the director of HIM for your assigned specialty. So if that's ophthalmology or um, um, all of a sudden I can't think, um, dentistry or another healthcare setting, usually the focus for this assignment has been on more like non-traditional settings, so outside the primary care clinic and outside the hospital. And so what makes this assignment also maybe a little bit more challenging than if it was focused on a primary care clinic or a hospital is that you're really going to have to research your sector of healthcare that you've been assigned, okay, to know how it differs from a primary care clinic or a acute care hospital. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna keep going here. Please make sure that you read the entire scenario and the entire introduction. And so this assignment has kind of like three phases. We have this planning phase of the system development life cycle. You have where you're conducting a functional needs assessment. And then you're also going to be kind of working, I should say formally two steps, but you could look at it as three. But and then this acquisition, design, and development phase. Okay. So I'll start up here at the top. And so the first thing that you need to do is, I would say, research your sector of healthcare. Okay. Find out what is unique about that compared to the primary care clinic or the acute care hospital, and what are their needs. And so, as part of this first planning phase, you are going to create a plan that addresses how you, as the project manager, are going to conduct a functional needs assessment. And again, please read the chapter in Margaret A's textbook for guidance on this and to know what a functional needs assessment is, okay? Essentially, what you need to do is find out what are the needs of your end users and the different groups of stakeholders within the organization, and how you're going to ensure executive management support, medical staff buy-in, other clinical staff buy-in, and then end user buy-in. And what I'm really going to be looking for is for your explanation on how you're going to accomplish this. You should definitely, be as specific as possible and support your plan with um, as much supporting documentation from your research or the Margaret A text as possible. One thing I will say is that what I've found recently in the assignments that have been submitted is that um, some students are really great at synthesizing and bringing in information from peer-reviewed resources and supporting their recommendations or their claims with that information, and others really struggle with that. And so in with this type of writing, this college level writing, academic writing, it's so important that you're supporting your statements with information from your research, okay? And not just any research, not just any website on the internet, but reputable resources. So that might be HIMSS or AHIMA or CMS, anything from the federal government. And of course, through our library databases where you can actually search out peer-reviewed articles and information, and definitely using the Margaret A textbook and the Oakes and Waters textbook. So if you're making a claim you know, or a recommendation that, okay, in order to get medical staff buy-in, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And this is supported by this research by, you know, by this person, or according to Margaret Amadiaco, this is a best practice in gaining medical staff buy-in. Okay, so working in that information to support what you're saying is super important, and I'm looking for that. Actually, I'm going to be specifically looking to see that you have that support. Okay, and then the second part of that plan is where you identify how you will um, um, identify internal and external information needs of the organization. So again, explaining how you're going to accomplish this. What is the best way to do this based on your research and your course readings? When we say internal and external information needs, so for example, for end users, you know, if you pick a group of end users, say coders, what are their internal internal information needs and what are their external information needs. An example of internal information needs might be, you know, solid documentation from providers, right? And that provides them with the information for them to code to the specificity that they need. External information could be information from clearinghouses. Maybe they need access to an encoder that is more external, whatever that information is, but thinking about how you're going to go about identifying the internal and external information needs of the organization. And so how are you going to gather that information? Not specific to what I just said about coders, right? But in general, what would be a good way to collect that information from those end users and from these different stakeholder groups? Okay. All right. Enough about that. Moving on. The next thing is this table. And it's really important that you take a look at this entire table, and probably important to read all the instructions before you start. I'm going to kind of highlight a few things right now, but so using what you've learned through your research on your specialty or sector of healthcare, you need to use this table to identify different key differentiators for the organization. And another word we would use for key differentiators, which is not a real common term, is the needs. So what are in this case, let's look here at the table specifically. What are the comprehensive functionality needs of this sector of healthcare? What are the technology needs? What are the implementation and ongoing support needs? And what are some vendor characteristics that your organization would look for in a vendor? Okay. So first thing would be to identify those key differentiators. And so list those. As it goes, I'm going to be looking for 15 to 20 key differentiators, and I don't want you to duplicate any of the meaningful use criteria. While I know meaningful use is kind of in the past, that's a really easy way to find some of the needs, right? And so I'm not looking for general needs like documentation templates. Okay, that's a typical and a very common functional need, right, of every organization. That's common. What is unique about your sector of healthcare? What are their specific needs? Okay, so I'm basically going to look for evidence that you have researched this sector of healthcare and that these are somewhat unique in terms of, I mean, I know when we get to compare the vendor characteristics and we get to, you know, implementation and ongoing support, those are going to be very, very common and very similar to any kind of primary care clinic or acute care hospital. But I will be looking for what are the different technical needs and what are the different functional needs of the organization. Okay. Okay, talking super fast. I'm very sorry for that. It's kind of a common thread with me. And so the next thing you would do is just, you know, after you've recorded those in there, and this is my little blurb here about finding unique key differentiators. Okay, the next thing would be to identify for each of the key differentiators what form of due diligence is going to tell you that that vendor or a vendor is able to meet your needs, right? So to find out that these I've numbered them here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can just actually insert numbers if you want to right into the table. But for one way of due diligence to find out if the vendor can provide the functionality that you're looking for, the support you're looking for, is through an RFP. You can put those needs right in an RFP. And so maybe that would be your form of due diligence. Maybe it would be an actual EHR demonstration. So where the vendor comes on site, or you go somewhere else to see a demonstration of the electronic health record that they're offering. You maybe would want to do a site visit to another organization that's using the EHR vendor or their product. You could conduct a reference check, and you could conduct a corporate check. And so many of these, you would maybe have more than one form of due diligence. So go ahead and list the numbers in this column of due diligence, okay? All right. Okay, then we're gonna move on to the next phase, which is the acquisition, design, and development phase of the system development lifecycle. So what you're going to do for this section, and note that up above in the table, there was a column A and a column B for vendors. So you're going to perform some market research for your assigned specialty or sector of healthcare to understand what type of EHR products are available. And I want you to identify 2 EHR vendors for your specialty or sector of healthcare, and then enter their names in place of vendor A and vendor B in that table. And then based on your market research and the information you can obtain from the vendor website, you should rate the vendor on each of the key differentiators or needs that you've identified in the table. And you should use this rating below. Now, this can be challenging, and probably is one of the more challenging aspects of this assignment, because not every vendor is going to have a ton of this information on their website, but you may get lucky and be able to view some demos. You may be able to see what organizations are saying about the vendor or the product. So do your best, okay? And then in the end, I want you to just make a short statement, 2 to 3 sentences, on which vendor would be selected and your rationale for selecting them. So just a very basic explanation there, but I do want you to say which one you would pick, okay? All right, so to just kind of recap everything here, your assigned deliverables for this assignment is a plan that addresses how you're going to conduct that functional needs assessment for your organization, and then a completed table that identifies 15 to 20 key differentiators or needs, the forms of due diligence that you will use for each differentiator or need, you identifying 2 EHR vendors for your specialty or sector of healthcare, and then rating of the vendors based off of how they can address the key differentiators, and then a short statement at the end about which vendor you would select. And of course, I'm going to be looking for APA formatting and a solid reference list. And I'll probably also be looking for references that are peer-reviewed and reputable resources, okay? Obviously, for the vendor, you're going to have to use their website, right? And it's okay. It's okay to use vendor websites and to use those kind of general websites for that information. But when you're making recommendations and things, I will be looking for more like use of the Margaret A. textbook, peer-reviewed articles, Oaks and Waters text, things like that, okay? All right, if you have any questions, of course, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I'll let you go and have a great rest of your week. Okay, everyone? All right.